Right.
Morning.
Good morning.
We're in Benidorm together.
We are.
Some people are amazed that you even made it.
Do you know what? Other than the last part where I got stressed out
Yeah.
because that charger wasn't working. Thanks, BP. Other than that, it was sweet. It was a breeze.
Everybody is expecting you to have not made it,
Yeah.
you to have arrived and be a shadow of your former self,
Yeah.
me to be spending 2 days in Benidorm on my own waiting for you to be putting your car on a trailer. That is the general consensus that we're seeing in comments from people.
Yeah.
But I hate to admit, the reality is far from that.
It was an amalgamation of the roads being, the infrastructure on the roads being far superior to the UK, and it shows how bad the roads are in the UK, and the potholes and the roadworks. How many roadworks did you see on the way down here?
I think I saw about 12 cones in 1,300 miles.
Yeah. And we hardly got into any traffic jams. In fact, the only traffic we got into was around Paris, and that wasn't that bad.
A little bit around Paris, but we flowed.
We did.
And then it was a little heavy as we got towards Barcelona, but it kept moving. And then the only time I was standstill was when a lorry had gone off the side of the road and they were picking up all of that lorry's load. But you didn't hit that.
No.
I was a bit ahead of you, and I was standstill. And it was at that moment when I thought, hang on a minute, this is the first time I've stopped my car whilst we're driving in 1,100 miles.
It was just so easy. I know we were expecting drama on this, but there was no drama.
No, there wasn't.
And then you look back, and I'm thinking, well, obviously this time I used the Porsche navigation system, which my mate David Joyce told me to use, right?
Yeah.
Which Porsche didn't tell me, but in their defence, it was 3 years ago nearly when I got the car.
Yeah.
So they weren't genned up on electric cars.
Yeah.
Now he's training them to do this. And it made it so much easier, because what it did was, it routed me to the charges that I needed to go to, told me exactly what percentage I needed to put in to get to the next charger, and planned my journey to get there at a certain time. Also preconditioned the battery, which you saw how quick that energy was going, and it was just, and he was getting it was insane. It was so quick.
So we've got fast chargers that are easy to find, you're ready to find them, the car is ready to find them, and everything's accessible.
Yeah.
And cheaper.
And cheaper.
We'll do the full cost breakdown on my
Your
channel, like we always do. But
You'll be surprised.
you will.
You've got to head over and look at the costings, because you'll be like, wow, okay.
For people that are thinking, oh, this is same old, this is the fourth video of the same thing, it's not.
It's
This
not.
one's totally different, and from a driving and distance point of view, although it was our biggest trip ever, it was our most boring.
Yeah,
Because it just worked.
There was no, apart from that end bit with BP,
Yeah.
and I was getting stressed out, and then I ended up driving through, where was it?
You ended up going through Valencia.
Valencia.
So I think your maps and your charging failed you at that point. But you were at Valencia by then. I mean, you're almost here.
Yeah.
You were like 60 miles away by
Yeah,
then.
it was so easy using the Porsche charging network, and I think that's why we need to do John O'Groats to Land's End again, because I think now I'd get there cheaper than you,
Yeah.
and by not much less.
Yeah.
But the figures are interesting. You've got to go over. The figures are just, you work. You'll do all your graphs and your spreadsheets.
Yeah, I'll drop all my usual infographics in,
Yeah.
and I'll illustrate it all. But yeah, I was, and the thing was as well, I was only about 10 miles from Calais when I was only about 10 miles from Calais when I realised that the game was up. When I pulled in to get my first bit of fuel, and I saw that it was over €2 a litre for petrol.
Yeah.
And I was, you'll see on my channel, I visibly lose myself for about the next 2 hours. I'm distraught driving the car, because my calculations on choosing the ridiculous car that I did was based on, every time we've done these in the UK, I can beat you with anything so long as it does more than about 28 miles to the gallon. My Volvo's only done 30.
I have to say the charging infrastructure in Europe is far superior against the UK. All this has proven to me is, Robert, how crap the UK is I mean, Great Britain, take away the great and throw it away, because roadworks, potholes, it's all the infrastructure.
Well, look, we've written some notes here for what we do on my video, so I'll show you that. There's our list, right? So we got roadworks, we didn't see any. Delays, we didn't have any. The flow of the traffic, well, it constantly flowed.
Yeah.
The potholes, we didn't see any.
Didn't see any.
The lane discipline was superb. And
Yeah.
we did the Mammoth drive through France on a Sunday when they're not allowed to put lorries on the road.
Yeah. It was.
Contrast that, and I was thinking this morning while we were having breakfast, I was looking back to being on the A9 in Scotland, at a standstill with my car switched off, out of the car filming the traffic.
While I'm driving through floods.
While you're driving through floods. And then the A14 Kettering when we did east to west, and I had a good 30, 40 miles of being the angriest man in the world because I can't get past the lorries.
Do you know, I know
This was not the trip I was expecting.
it wasn't, and you're going to get people going, turncoats, whatever. I'll still stand by the fact that we should have choice with cars, right? That's what annoys
Yeah.
me. If you take away, if I say, oh, you should not have electric cars, then you're taking away the choice of that from people, right? And it is about choice. It's power to the people, which is what I say, right? Morphy used to say years ago. But it's power to the people. You should have electric, you should have petrol, you should have diesel, because they've each got their own place. Now, I've also said electric cars are better for around town. However, I've just proven that it's actually all right for a long journey.
This is the thing, I've always said that, you know, electric cars are great for around town, but now this kind of throws all of that out and says, well, you had an easier, and don't want to ruin it for people, but a cheaper run down across 1,100 miles than I did in the Volvo. And you know, the other note that we've got there is, and we'll do this more on my channel, but you had the coldest genitalia.
I did have the coolest genitalia.
You had cooling seats.
I did, yeah. First time I've used them ever.
Exactly, and I once again bought a car at the absolute last minute. I was told that the aircon worked. I'd never tested it in England, and then it turned out that my aircon didn't work.
People laughed at me when I put that on as an extra in my car. Cooling seats in England, what for? Just you wait and see.
Finally paid off. So whereas everybody thought that you would arrive broken and ship your car back, you're feeling pretty confident about driving home.
Yeah, it was just that last bit that ruined it for me. But other than that, no. And do you know what? I'm saying I've got to drive all the way back, but I'm not fazed by it. I'm like, well, it was not. To be honest, it was just easy.
That was my worry. My worry would be that you'd make it down here and then be like, oh my gosh, I've now got to get this car back home. What am I going to do?
No.
But not the case at all.
It was a nice place. You can't take it away from Porsche, and you can say turncoat, backstabber, you know. It's a nice car to be in.
100%, yeah. When I jumped in it with you very briefly at the hotel yesterday, I was like, it is a bit of all right.
Yeah, the cabin was quiet. There was wafting cool air around
Exactly.
the genitalia.
So the cars have been great. I chose the wrong car on fuel economy, but my Volvo was an absolute mile muncher. That car just wants to sit at, let's say, 70 miles an hour all day long, and it did. You know, do 8 hours doing speeds. And it just absolutely ate the miles, but the price you pay for that is the price you pay.
And while I was sleeping last night in the hotel, what was my car doing in the basement?
Catching fire? I slept with one eye open, waiting for the fire alarm. No, jokes aside, you've woken up. Your car's fully charged. Your car was safe.
Fully charged.
Fully charged.
Hey, you hear that, Quentin?
Your car was safely parked in the basement, fully charged, whilst mine was, you know, probably leaking fuel even just while it's been sat there.
Yeah.
I have to say though, my car, everybody loves it. And when we came out of that hotel, and there's your £120,000 Porsche sat on the corner, and there's a bloke with his phone taking pictures
of your
of my Volvo. And then I pulled up in Benidorm, and immediately a guy comes over and says, "Is this for sale?"
It's been a head turn, that.
Yeah, it has. So I'm glad I chose it, but I have to admit, we were about 10 miles in, and I was thinking, should have bought a diesel.
Should have bought a diesel. I tell you what, that picture you took out of your window,
Yeah.
right, of the Taycan through that tunnel, you've got to admit it's a sexy car.
Yeah, it's a good looking car, and as I've said on all of these videos, I don't mind sitting behind it. I don't mind seeing it in my rear view mirror. I do think it's a very well designed car. It's big mind, isn't it? It was quite funny getting it in the charging bay last night.
It was. I'll tell you the only disadvantage, what really annoyed me with a Porsche sports car, you can outrun people. I'd got a Mercedes up my backside at one point.
Yeah.
I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to outrun them. So I put my foot down and it went into range mode and just like.
So you floored it, and the guy almost hit you because your car went. We can't do that. We haven't got the range.
Yeah. So it chucked it onto range mode and just. And then I just lost all power. I thought, what's going on?
Yeah.
And that's annoying. I thought, this is a sports car. This is a Porsche sports car. If he's in a 911, you'd have wasted him.
Yeah.
You know, that's what annoyed me. I thought, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Give me the choice if I want to go into range.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Don't put it in range for me.
Automatically. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was embarrassing because then I had to pull over and just let him by. And I was like trundling along at about 40 mile an hour while everyone's going by at 120. 40 kilometres.
Let's talk about speed limits then, because we've mentioned the flow of traffic. What I found funny is, you know, yeah, you could drive quick for a section and think, oh, I'm flying along here, and then you slow down to what you feel is, you know, an acceptable speed. And I had a funny one where I was sat with the cruise control on, and I was probably doing 75 mile an hour, and a Dacia jogger, right? And if you know what a Dacia jogger is, it wasn't a jogger actually, it was a Logan, a Dacia Logan MCV, which is like this people carrier. It's packed to the rafters, the kids in the back, and I'm hammering along like this. They just come alongside me, and all the kids are looking across at the car. I'm like, I feel like I'm really moving here, but I'm going slower than the flow of traffic. The traffic flows so well, and they do drive quite fast. It just, things move.
Well, it's 80 mile an hour, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd changed my car in 2 kilometres, which I was like, oh, what's the speed limit? What's the speed limit? So I changed my car into kilometres. Whereas, have you got kilometres on yours?
I have actually, yeah. So that's how I was working out because you were doing your mileage in kilometres.
Yeah.
So when you were saying to me, oh, I'm X amount of kilometres away, I was having to look at my speedo and go, well, hang on, 100 is that and that is that. I was having to do the maths on my speedo.
Yeah. Well, it had just changed over, and the headlights changed over, but everything else, it was just. So if I take anything out of this trip, is the navigation system on the Porsche really helped. It just made it so much easier. If I'd have not done that, I'd have been, where am I going to, what charger am I using, and it would have cost me more money because it was taking me to the discounted ones.
Yeah.
So that made a difference. The infrastructure made a difference. But yeah, it was just relatively uneventful.
But yeah, it was. It was an uneventful 1,125 miles.
Apart from the last bit.
Apart from the last bit. But I've got nothing to report from the Volvo really. I did have a rather special moment with a Porsche where there was a guy who was coming on the slip road to join the road in an older 996 911, and he saw my car, and he was obviously a car guy, and he saw the colour. So the 250 horsepower one that was the only one you could get in that colour. So if you're driving a car that's that colour and you know cars, people know that it's the fast one. So anyway, he pulls alongside, and I was going at quite some clip at that point, and he comes up next to me, but he comes up my inside, and I'm like, oh, this guy wants to overtake. So I indicated to move over, but he was like, no, I'm coming next to you. So he came next to me up my inside, and he just looked over and he was like, yeah, nice car. And then we both just went for it.
And that's from a guy in a 911.
And that's from a guy in a 911.
Did he outrun you?
No.
No.
I don't think he was playing as hard as I was though. But I mean, that's the thing with the Volvo. The Volvos with that engine are known for their acceleration from like 60, 70 mile an hour. Like the Volvo has no right to be able to accelerate from 60 onwards. Like Volvo just took the rule book as to what an estate car can do and went, no, we think it should be able to do this, and it's ridiculous. But I struggled with driving the car sensibly, and even when I did drive it sensibly, I didn't get much better fuel economy anyway.
Let me ask you a question.
Go on.
If Porsche said to you, you can drive from the UK, like we did, do the same journey, in a 911, right, you know, with all the spoiler kits and the sports bucket seats, or a Taycan?
The problem with depends on so it depends on which one it is, because you're talking about a hardcore 911 like a GT model.
GT.
I don't think you'd enjoy it over that amount of distance. What you need for covering that distance is your traditional Grand Tourer.
Which is what a Taycan is.
That's a race one. That's what the Taycan is. The Taycan is very good at Grand Touring. Now, if you said I'd have a 911 that's lower down the model range, you know, with more of the mod cons, because all the real sporty stuff. I mean, I saw a brand new, it must have been a GT3. It's all spoilers and wings and everything, but you're going to be in there with a bucket seat. You've probably got a harness. You might not have aircon. You haven't got the stuff that you need. What you need for a journey like this is a Grand Tourer that is just happy to really munch some miles.
I still think the Taycan was phenomenal, right, on the journey down. There is something missing, and it is that soul.
Yeah.
And it is that the heart of the car, which is the engine, and that's what's missing. But you can't take away from the fact that it was like sitting in an armchair the whole way.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And neither of us got out of our cars and were stretching out and being like, "Oh my gosh!"
It was like sitting in an armchair, right?
Yeah.
In a quiet living room.
Yeah.
Of a 90-year-old pensioner's living room with the clock ticking, you know, very quiet.
Yeah.
Actually, got a cup of tea, rather than sitting in an auditorium in a cinema with Dolby surround sound playing.
Yeah. Speaking of Dolby surround, I had Dolby surround in my Volvo, and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
No, I thoroughly enjoyed the Volvo, but it was definitely a bit of a different experience. But I would be very curious to do that trip in something like a Panamera diesel.
Yeah.
Now, that would be a very interesting comparison to see what a Panamera diesel
Mention
could
the
do.
Panamera a lot. I think you'll
I've
like
got
the
a real
Panamera.
soft spot for the Panamera.
And you've also said the Taycan is what the Panamera should have been.
Yeah, but as the Panamera has developed, the first Panamera that came out was hideous, the Mark I.
Yeah, it was.
But as the Panamera has gone on, they've refined the style and they're starting to look better and better. And they're also starting to drop in price. I mean, it'll be a long while before the Panamera hits the Geoff price point, but I'm curious about borrowing one. I'd just be interested to see what it does over a long distance, because I mean that's the GT class of cars, the Grand Tourer class of cars, was made for doing stuff like this. It was made for crossing continents. So yeah, I mean the Taycan is more of a Grand Tourer, but I'm not really interested in stripped out high performance, all out race cars like that. Because
It's like the new Taycan, the latest generation Taycan. They've took the back seats out of it.
Yeah.
So it can go 0 to 60 in, I think it's 2.1 seconds or sub 2 seconds apparently.
Yeah.
But they've took the back seats out of it. So basically what they've done, they've made that car purposeless, because the car is for families in the back.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't value the large because it sets on fire. But
Well, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So
so wind up, uneventful, really.
uneventful. Sorry for the boring trip.
Yeah, it was there's no drama apart from the last bit.
Yeah.
That was it. But I didn't run out of charge, so
I'm a bit disappointed that I should have sabotaged you. You see on the video, there's a point where I end up with Lee's charging card
that would have been bad.
in my pocket, and I considered walking off with it, but it would have massively debilitated you, and it would have effectively ruined everything. It would have been funny, but I don't
Because then I couldn't have
think we would have been
used
friends afterwards.
couldn't have used the charge points then. So anyway, head over to Geoff's channel. You'll get all the figures, you get all the details, all the graphs, and all the what he does. Mr. Spreadsheet here. Geoff makes spreadsheets.
Love a spreadsheet.
So head over to his channel and you'll get all the details there. And thanks for watching. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on both of us. Don't forget, you'll see a link to his video down below and also at the end as well. So we'll see you guys in the next one.